was silly, ridiculous, a waste of time. They didn't want that's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
I'm surprised they didn't go bigger, but they probably
I made a living in very dangerous.
This is more of an integrated blue society.
Dianne Andrews in black and white.
Welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. I am your host, Dianne Andrews. Thanks for tuning in to us in the 3 million homes between Louisiana and Mississippi, 50 parishes in Louisiana and 4 counties in Mississippi, including our biggest state in the Louisiana, New Orleans, and then Baton Rouge and Lafayette. Today I'm doing a show that is going to talk about some things that we talked about 3 years ago. The Brittany Mills murder in Baton Rouge. A lady who was 8.5 months pregnant, had a 9-year-old daughter there with her, and someone knocked on the door and was shot to death. And we have not been able to resolve that case as of today. But we're going to talk about some things about why. We believe that someone called her and her phone, we could not unhack the phone, Apple, it was an iPhone. We're going to talk in more detail about that, about what we said 3 years ago and where it stands today. We're also going to talk about some prison reform. What's been going on in the federal government a little bit, but also specifically what's going on in the Justice Act here in Louisiana. So come on back to Dianne Andrews and let's hear some more good things and good stories, and some maybe just per se stories about what's going on in Louisiana and specifically here in Baton Rouge. Come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White and talk to our District Attorney, Mr. Hilar Moore, who's been with us for 11 years and doing a fantastic job since 2008. Thanks for coming back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. I am now sitting with Hilar Moore, our District Attorney since 2008, as I mentioned in the intro. Thanks for being with me again, Hilar. It's always good to see you.
Good to
always
see you
good to
again on
talk
the show.
to you. Yeah, good to have you back here. As you know, I'm doing an anti-gun violence show around the state. I've done the Chief of Police, Chief Paul, and I have done a show with the mayor and with Joan Honore together talking about gun violence and just the good things going on in the state. And specifically a lot of things going on in Baton Rouge. And then I went to Faraday with Mayor Sherry Jacobs over there, and we did a anti-gun violence rally there that I was a speaker, and then I interviewed 4 survivors, female and male gun violence. So let's talk about what's going on here with our gun violence, and then we'll get into Brittany Mills after we talk
Sure.
about gun violence.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing the topic up because it's timely right now because the summer's upon us.
Yeah.
And as you know from living around Baton Rouge and just Louisiana, when the summer comes and the children are out of school, that's when we see our gun and the heat soars. That's when we see more gun violence. Whether it's related to summer and school and heat, I'm not sure, but we see that peak. And what we're trying to do is get a message out to the children, and maybe by mothers and parents of children.
And General Honore talked about that, to get into the school system, get the mothers involved
and
in
can
this
we
process.
get a message consistent on all radio shows, television shows, saying summer months are here, make sure you know what your children are doing. Do you have a gun that's left around the house?
Well, we're doing it right now. Let's say it to these mothers out here.
Do you know if your child has a gun in the home? Maybe your child should not have a gun in the home unless they're a hunter or
access to the guns.
Or access. So
like the boy in Parkland, I guess, had access to
and we see a lot of young children where guns are left behind or not secure, and they kill himself or kill another by accident, or curious, they're playing around with the gun. It's like a swimming pool with no fence around it. Kids are going to be curious.
Fall in and babies, drown. A lot of babies end up dead in swimming pools.
And it happens. So it's really important right now we get the message to mothers particularly, but also to the kids that these are not toys, these are not games.
And let's not leave the fathers out. Fathers have to be more participatory in this process also.
And but we do see more mothers.
I know,
than we do fathers, but surely lack of father figures is a big issue.
problem in our communities.
But we have a lot of single mothers who raise a lot of really good people.
They really
do. So, right now we're having a better year than last year and a better year than many years homicide-wise. It's still way too many for a city our size. And
we're still the second largest city in the state. New Orleans is still number 1, I think.
Some consider the Baton Rouge is actually the largest. But New Orleans murder rate surely outpaces ours.
Chief Paul said it was about 30% difference. He was considering New Orleans still the largest city. And
I think it depends on how you count it.
Is it the MSA, the metropolitan statistical area? Is it the city limits?
So
how do you do it?
Regardless, we have too many murders for Baton Rouge, and right now we have around we're at, I think, 20.
Right, and
for the- for the year.
70802 and 70805 are our worst two zip codes we talked about with Chief Paul and
Yes.
you have the statistics on that today.
Yes.
How many have been done? And
Yes.
20 murders
20
right now.
total for the entire parish.
Yes.
And I think in 70802 we have 8,
Mm-hmm.
and I think in 70805 we have 3. But I think, when we talk
That's
about...
11. That's that's 55% of the murders are in those two
Correct.
parish,
Correct.
two zip codes.
I think we should be cautious too, and when people watch the show, that
Yeah.
we are not casting a blanket over everyone that's in 05 and 02,
Right.
because the overwhelming vast majority of people want to live in peace.
That's right.
And these people are law-abiding citizens. It just so happens that we have a very small number of youngsters, young people,
Mhm.
that create all of the havoc and all of the problems that we see. And so our goal is to focus just on the very small number
Mhm.
and not try to arrest your way out of a
Well,
problem.
they're victims. They're really survivors and victims
Absolutely.
of the violence in those zip codes. A
Absolutely.
lot of the people
And
want
they
it
need
stopped.
our help.
That's right.
And they want us there.
Do you think a lot of people, we talk about snitching all the time. I go to a whistleblowers conference and I did a video once on snitching, and I compared whistleblowing to like snitching, and in hood it's called snitching, and people are afraid to snitch.
They are afraid to talk, and they're
Mhm.
afraid to be seen with the police. And the
Right.
reason is, it's a lot of it's factual.
Right.
Oftentimes you see that there's retaliation. They're harmed.
Right.
Their family members are harmed. Their houses are shot up. There's shots in the area. Their relatives that are being threatened. So it's difficult. So we really need to change that culture. What we'd like to think about it is not snitching,
Mhm.
but can you tell us something to save a life?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it's about. It's about trying to save a life, not snitching on someone. So
Right.
can you tell us some information about guns and violence before it happens? And therefore you're not necessarily snitching. You want
Right.
to, hopefully save somebody's life. How can we find a way to get to the young children in
Mhm.
school? Now they text more than they pick up the phone
Right,
and call.
right. Mhm.
Can we find some way that they can communicate with us the information that we can act on and prevent someone from being injured?
And the reason I say snitching, because in the areas, that's the word they use to speak. You
Absolutely.
better not snitch on me.
Absolutely.
When it really should be, which is negative connotation,
Correct.
instead of a positive connotation that you're going to save somebody's life.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little. I talked to Mrs. Wade Sims recently, and about she had seen some of my shows, the one I
Mhm.
specifically did in Parody with the 4 survivors, and it's very hard for her.
Yes.
She wanted to come on and talk and about her son and what has happened, but it's still too early for her. Tell me what the process of that, if you can talk about it. We probably can't because it's a current case, so
Yeah,
I
it's
won't talk about that. But it's really at Southern University, I
It's
think,
a-
on the
it's a-
campus outside the
It's a
campus.
current case where,
Yeah.
unfortunately, her son was
Wrong
killed.
place, wrong time.
And without getting into any of those
Yeah.
details, it's just it's another person that we have lost. And these
A good person.
And these young kids are important to us
That's right.
and to the success of Baton Rouge. So
Right.
every time someone's killed, every time someone's put in jail or kills someone, that's a loss to Baton Rouge. It's
Mhm.
someone's life. It's a
Mhm.
family member. So we need to do a better job of getting out the message about how we can avoid these issues. But it's a trying process. So that family and any other families in their same position, they'll never be the same.
That's right.
I would say the defendant in that case, that his
That's right.
family will never be the same.
That's right.
And so it just cuts across all different lines that you may want to ever draw any kind of way.
Mhm.
And people's lives have changed completely forever. When you think about, we just had Easter holiday.
Right.
What do you do? What do you think on that holiday? What do you think about when other kids are graduating, being married, going to
Right.
college? You're always going to go back to that day and that event. What could I have done differently?
Well, you look at,
Yes.
and this is a positive thing. Skylar Mays is a very, very good friend of his parents are my
Mhm.
best friends here, Dr. Mays and Shannon, my best friends, and they were very good, very, very good friends.
There's a really good
Skylar.
support group
They
around
are.
him.
They are.
And very good family.
They
and
are wonderful people.
It doesn't ease the pain at all.
No, and she's a very good friend of Mrs. Wade, who's
Yeah.
trying to help as much as she can. Let's talk a little bit then on the prison, the Justice Act that's being done here.
Justice reform.
Justice
Yes.
Reform. And National is Prison Reform Act that has happened in this administration. And then the Justice Reform is something, how long has that been going on here?
Actually, around a year, a little bit, or
Okay.
over a year or so. So, past legislature, they passed the Justice Reform
Mhm.
Act, which it's an all-encompassing. Some say it went too far, some say it didn't go far enough.
Mhm.
But the DAs went along with, I think, 11 of the 13 bills where we reformed or changed the way that we were doing things. There's still more work to be done. There's also a lot of work to look at the impact of justice reform. Do we get it right? Do we need to tweak it in one way or the other?
Can you tell me the major things that were changed that make the biggest impact?
It's just looking at overall statutes that we passed and sentencing things. But the biggest thing that we got out of it now, when you equating what we're doing here to nationally. So right now in Baton Rouge, you would expect, and your viewers would expect, that when we convict somebody of a serious offense or a felony offense, and they're a state prisoner, they go to a state facility to be incarcerated. And it's called Department of Corrections, where you want them to be corrected or change their behavior. Unfortunately, and for Baton Rouge particularly, but for the entire state of Louisiana, when someone is convicted, they actually are not, for the most part, they're not going to a state institution. Will they receive a lot of help and a lot of training, a lot of assistance on the way in and on the way out? They're actually going to local jails. And in Baton Rouge, we send people to around 98 to 99 different locations outside of Baton Rouge, where they're then, for the most part, housed without a lot of training, a lot of education. And then when we release them back exactly to the same place without a lot of skills, without a lot of
Same
tools.
environment.
Same environment. So what you expect is going to happen?
Right.
They're going to come back again. They'll come back very
Same
shortly.
things, yeah.
And so we have really
Is that
failed.
because we're running out of space? Why is there a
It's-
reason that you can talk about?
It's a lot of different issues, a lot of different problems. But part of the Justice Reform Act, they've picked 7 different regions. Baton Rouge is one of them, where hopefully beginning in the next several months, those people that are state convictions, they're going to then go to different facilities. But the last year or two, before they return back to Baton Rouge, they're going to go to a place that's close to Baton Rouge, where they can get all the help, training.
And their family can come see them.
Family come see them.
That makes a difference.
But they're going to have skills when they come out, and they're going to be helped once they get out, as opposed to just letting them go out the door and saying, "Hey,
And you
don't
can't
come back
find a
again."
job, as you say, you're in the same environment. Let's briefly talk about Brittany. Where does that case stand?
So right now, unfortunately, for the Mills case, that nobody has been arrested. The case is still
But there were
ongoing.
2 laws in Congress, going to Congress, that we talked about 2.5 years ago.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah,
But,
it
you know,
is.
there were there were 2 different types of laws that we were seeking to see if manufacturers of cell phones, if they could particularly manufacture a phone in such a way that law enforcement with a warrant could get into the phone, and then some other legislation about another way of us being able to access the phone itself. Neither one of those 2 really went anywhere. They both have failed. I mean, we testified in Congress on behalf of the Brittany Mills case as well.
Hold that
And-
thought for me. We're going to take a break for just a few minutes and come on back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White. Hello, thanks for coming back. This is Dianne Andrews in Black and White as part of the Hilar Moore Show on anti-gun violence and just things going on with the District Attorney and his office here in this great city of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. On May 4th, Dianne Andrews in Black and White and Promoting Success seminars are going to be doing a leadership forum. This forum is going to concentrate on wealth building, credit management, cryptocurrency even, to see where's the right place to invest. We're doing a Women in Politics luncheon with our distinguished mayor, Sharon Broome, and also the mayor of Faraday, Sherry Jacobs, and with Pat Smith, our state senator, also as part of that Women in Politics. And that gets pretty heated sometimes. Our first one it did with all our state representatives were on that panel. Then in the afternoon, we have 4 sessions for you to choose from. And one is all about women. It has 2 sessions. And the second is entrepreneurship, from how to start a business to how to make a business work to how to get money to run a business. We also have some booths going on in our networking, and we'll be having a business card exchange from 5 to 6:30 on Saturday, May 4th. Register on promotingsuccessseminars.eventbrite.com. Come on down with us on May 4th at 3875 Florida Boulevard in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, to have a grand old time and to take skills away for the rest of your life. Thank you for coming with the District Attorney Hilar Moore here of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We had talked a little bit about that we're 20 deaths, and every death is just as important as another death right now in this time period in April of 2019. But last year it was 27 deaths at this same period, and the city's growing.
Right.
So what are we doing, the positive things along with the Justice Reform Act? I talked to Chief Paul about it a little bit, and from your standpoint, what do you see that's working?
You know, it's hard to say that if you do this one particular thing, things are going to change. But just, I think more working together better. I think there's a lot more community effort. I think the chief and the mayor have done a really good job of getting the community more involved and having them say more things and provide us more information. So I think a lot of that has helped, but really working together, moving to some more the real-time crime unit that I'm sure.
Yeah, that was very impressive. Very
so
impressive.
I think all of those things are really helping us. But working together, to me,
because you can move based on where the need is with the great computerized system that Chief Paul has over there. Now we can move units wherever they need to go. And are we doing more community policing? Because at the end of the day, people are just people, and the more they know about the policemen, they won't hate them as much. Because police do a lot of good things in the community.
Yeah, we try to reach out as much as we can and do community walks, community canvases, do picnics on weekends, and try to let people see in a different light than you are answering an official call.
Right, and with that,
in court.
Right.
And so that's been a big thing that's happened. And I think it really helps a lot, particularly right now in the summer.
Yeah.
When things are getting a little tighter.
You were telling me, do you know about how much crime grows up in the summer, like 25-30% higher in the summer than?
I can only tell you that the murders surely have, over the years, several decades, have expanded to numbers that you don't want to see. Some months maybe 12, 14, 16 homicides for a summer month.
Yeah.
We've gone to other summers where we've had very few in a particular month. So there's really not a rhyme or reason. And but
it kind of is though.
It does seem
you're out of school. You're
it does
hot,
seem to follow that.
Yeah, and you're playing out, or you're doing bad things out in the streets because you don't have enough to do.
Yeah, you have nothing to do with it. You're not going to school, and other too much time on your hand, maybe.
You know, a friend of mine lives in Atlanta, and her husband had gotten a grant, and he used to do basketball at night for in the like the 70802s and 70805s. He would go into those areas and keep the kids and let them know somebody besides a gang is interested in your well-being, because they don't realize the gangs are only interested in their own well-being and using them to do the dirty work that they want done.
Good effort. We did that 1 year. We called it the NBA, the Night Basketball Association. So the idea is to get the kids who are on the street, maybe not having anything to do at night, when we see some increases, can you get them in gyms? And can you not only play basketball, can you teach them, plus can you feed them? Can you get them moved into other directions? Same thing with girls and cheerleading and volleyball. Can we do that at night? Problem is, it costs money. You need gym space, you need coaches, you need referees.
You need volunteers.
You need
a lot of volunteers.
You need money. And so it's a big effort,
it is.
A lot of money, and that's always a problem.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
A lot of people to keep that going on. But maybe, I don't know if somebody is interested, if I can use this vehicle that I use for community good, I'll do as much as I can to get volunteers.
Absolutely.
And I'm doing a leadership forum. If you all have some papers or something on May 4th, where our college students come free, and we're working with Center for Drugs on the leadership forum, and non-students also. It's a great leadership forum on finance. A lot of way out of the hood or the whatever, out of poverty is the word I'm looking for, is to have a job, to have some skills. As you said, with the justice reform, people are coming out of prison with skills, and now they can go out to fix a car. Number one, you feel like you have a purpose.
Yes.
And then you can make money, so you're not caught having to go back in that same environment that you're used to. And at the leadership forum, we're teaching financial management, things like that.
And so we are looking at talking to people getting out of prison, and we are seeing firsthand the struggles that they have. When you talk about just housing, where are you going to live? Are you sure you're going to live there? How are you going to get a job? Do you have a car? Are you on a bus line? Do you know how to dress when you go to the job? What are your skills that you have? Those kind of things are really simple for you and I, but it's very, very difficult for these people. And that's where I think we're going to move to, where we're going to take care of those problems. Or even do you have a driver's license or an ID card? Can you get a TWIC card? Do you have mental health, drug issues? They're going to drug test you. Make sure
which is a major problem, the drug issue.
Can you be on time?
Right.
That's a problem. So, and that's where we have to fix those, and
those skills have to be.
We have to help these
portrayed.
people help themselves.
right.
And I think once they see you can earn a paycheck, then they don't want something given to them. They
Aren't
want to
there
earn their own
grants
way.
out there for those kinds of programs
There
to
are-
help incarcerated
You know,
people
there
coming
are,
out?
but the problem is so big and so enormous that
Massive.
there's just not enough money.
How many
to
people
be
come out
paid.
of just, I know there have been some issues with East Baton Rouge Jail, I think, that I'm supposed to be talking to some people about. But how many people come out of our prisons? Angola is the largest prison in the country, I think.
I think probably in Baton Rouge, and I may be wrong in the number, but I think we return about 1,500 to 1,900 citizens from prison back to Baton Rouge. So they're coming home
1,500 just in
A year.
Baton Rouge.
a year.
A year,
And so we have to be prepared that these people, you know, do you want them to succeed?
right.
If you want them to succeed, give them the tools to
That's
succeed, not just say, oh, hey, I'm not going to give you anything for it.
Right.
We have to help these
We
people.
have to be a
and
partnership.
they're extremely needy.
Right,
And you have to understand what they've gone through and where they're going back to,
right.
and we have to understand and help them.
I guess a lot of people, when, you know, I've had businesses, and when you look at some of the resumes, people who've been to prison, number one, you want to know what for. If you were 15 years old and you robbed something, you didn't kill anybody. I know I had a cousin who went to jail under the act from when the Clinton presidency, when they had 3 strikes you're out. He went to jail for smoking marijuana 3 times in California for 20 years.
Wow.
That was such a waste of money and of a young man's
Yeah.
life. It was a nonviolent a crime. Does the Justice Reform Act deal more with nonviolent versus violent? How do you make a distinction?
Really
between-
good question with a really difficult answer. That's either you wouldn't have enough time here.
Yeah.
But surely Justice Reform looked at what they would consider nonviolent offenders and who's in jail.
Right.
You really can't tag someone as a violent or nonviolent offender by what they maybe went to jail for. So if you have a lot of drugs and you're distributing drugs and you have a gun,
Uh-huh.
and if, as the DA said, you know what, I'm going to remove that gun charge, which makes it a violent crime, to a nonviolent crime,
Yeah.
you're going to jail now just for the drug charge.
Right.
I've now put in jail a so-called nonviolent offender,
Mhm.
but it was actually a violent offender that I reduced
You
the gun
stepped
charge.
it
So
down, yeah.
you have to look at each person
Yeah.
individually. It's hard to tell just on a general basis.
I guess just being a civilian and looking at it, hey, if he had a gun, he hadn't killed anyone or hurt anyone before he had a gun with him, shouldn't he get out of jail before the guy, if they had the same, this is just a layman's
Yes.
thought on this, shouldn't he get out of jail before the guy who killed 5 people and
Sure.
had a history of murder and robbery?
Sure, you would want that to happen.
Yeah.
But again, it
That's
is
a utopia world, though.
It is a
Yeah.
case-by-case basis that
Okay.
you have to look at. And so you really have to get down into it by person,
Uh-huh.
and not by a number. We can't count these people as numbers. They're people.
Right. But is the system capable of customizing each person's way to get out and how to get out?
As we're funded now,
Yeah.
neither the district attorney or the public defender are capable of doing that. We really need to move to that system.
Yes.
As a country and as a state, we do not have time to even breathe going from one person to another on either office, and as judges.
Yeah.
Judges would surely like to take their time as well.
Right.
And at this point, we just
So
move from
overcrowded.
case to case.
It's like healthcare. I was in healthcare
Yes.
before. I mean, there's not a minute. I mean, you're 24/7,
Yes.
365.
Absolutely.
Same thing in the judicial system.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for the time and
Glad to
what
be
you
here.
do, DA Moore. I'm always happy to talk to you, and whatever I can do, we're going to continue
I appreciate it.
on Dianne Andrews in Black and White, trying to spread whatever we can on this anti-gun violence and whatever else we can to make this place a better place.
We need it. Hopefully have a great summer.
Thank you.
Take care.
Let's talk a little bit about, everyone should be familiar, I'll just give you a brief history on the San Bernardino murderers last year who killed 14 people. The name of the murderers were Tashin Malik and Sarud Farouk, her husband. They came in on a K-1 visa, she did. Her husband was from Detroit, Michigan, but lived in California, in San Bernardino, and worked at a government agency there in San Bernardino. These people had invited them in to even do a baby shower for her when she was pregnant. They came back and basically assassinated 14 people and hurt many more. And that was last year. We have a show out there about it if you want to look it up on YouTube or Vimeo on Dianne Andrews in Black and White. They found their phone, and there's a big case whether to unlock the phone or not. Now, the phone has been unlocked, but the government had to spend $1 million of our taxpayer money to have that phone unlocked by a third party. The CEO for Apple, Tim Cook, had said that that phone was not hackable. but that phone turned out to be hackable. But why would government have to pay $1 million? We can't afford that here in Baton Rouge. Tell us about the case with Brittany Mills.
Well, as you know, a little bit over a year ago, Miss Mills, who was almost full-term pregnant at the time, apparently answered the door and had a short...
You'll see her picture on the screen. You'll see
and
her
had
pregnant.
a short conversation, and within seconds was shot multiple times. She died. They attempted to keep their child alive. I think the child survived probably 4 or 5 days, and eventually died of the lack of oxygen due to the shooting. And we've investigated that case. The city police have investigated that case. We've done all the subpoena work that we can to get subscriber information from AT&T, subjects like that. We've also looked at and received a search warrant for her cloud information that her phone had backed up to the cloud. But unfortunately, for the 3 months prior to her death, her murder, her phone had not backed up to the cloud. So all of the information, the critical information, the one that's really fresh, is on the device itself, the phone itself. And we issued a search warrant to Apple for that information. And within 2 days, they responded indicating that, as you know, as we already knew, that since it's operating in iOS 8.2 or later version, that they cannot get into that phone because they designed it that way and advertised it that way, that even a search warrant issued by a judge could not allow them to get into that phone. So now we're at a point where we have potential valuable information, fresh information that we're not able to get, not able to follow up on, and it's real frustrating.
You will see the picture of Miss Mills on the screen, 8 months pregnant, right before. It's a Facebook picture of our source for that picture, but her daughter, she has a 9-year-old daughter also, who, what I read, I don't know if it's true or not, was also in the house. That may not be true, but she does have a 9-year-old. There was a person of interest that was cleared of it. He was a football player from LSU, but he had nothing to do with the incident, is what the information has come out to say as current. Now, tell us what your point of view is on this, Mr. Stewart.
Well, first of all, I actually do have a heart, and I hate to hear about cases like that. And even terrorists, I like to consider myself a patriot as well. But the problem is that there is an evidentiary privilege that exists, typically between two people in the United States. We see that with what's known as the ecclesiastical privilege, you know, where people may confess or confide to a member of the clergy. There's also the spousal privilege, which is a little bit different because the other spouse on the receiving end can choose whether to testify or not in a lot of instances. But my thing is that there is an expectation of privacy, and it is a cornerstone that's been established since 1813 in the state of New York. New
York has a case also.
Well,
similar to Brittany Mills, so does Arkansas. It's all over the country.
And so for me, the debate is, you know, I hate that these crimes happen. I hate that you know, that it seems like you have to go after justice.
But Mr. Stewart, this will be a part of life. These crimes will happen.
Well, it's a part of life, but so is evidentiary privilege and the expectation of privacy that our cornerstone of our country is built on.
So at the end, let the DA.
Clearly different. His opinion would change dramatically, immediately when someone in his family is killed. It would happen automatically. And so you really have to look at this. You're talking about evidentiary privilege. You're talking about people. We're talking about a device, an object. So it is the only thing, entity, business, pick something. White House.
Between black and white, they're always shades of gray.